It's time to win at Tottenham.
Yes, guys, welcome back to the show. I hope you're all well. I hope you're enjoying football. Tonight's been a good football game. I think everybody enjoyed tonight, didn't they? I mean, listen, when Chelsea lose, it's funny. But when you keep losing, it's even funnier. João Felix, what a signing. What a signing that is. Great debut from him. Good sending off, red card. That looks good. And Willian, I mean, wow, how poor was he for Arsenal? Scores against Chelsea. It's a great night. And we're not here to talk about Chelsea. We're here to talk about North London Derby preview. I'm here with Lee Judges. I'm here with Stelios from Tottenham Away. Stelios, big up yourself, bro. How are you?
Mate, I'm good. Like you said, Chelsea losing, fantastic. The good times are back again if you don't like Chelsea. And thanks for having me on the show, by the way. Appreciate it.
Man, of course, man. Of course, you're welcome. And of course, back again for the same North London Derby preview is, of course, Michael Bridge. How you doing, Michael?
Yeah, good, guys. Good to see you all.
Yeah, likewise, man. Likewise. Let's get into it. Me and Michael are going to kick back and enjoy this first part because Lee Judges made some comments that Stelios took exception to not long ago about Tottenham being ungrateful to Daniel Levy. Daniel Levy is responsible for Tottenham Stadium. He's responsible for Tottenham's new training ground. He's responsible for a Champions League final, a title race against Leicester. And without that, Daniel Levy, that may not have happened. So perhaps there's a little bit of ungratefulness, Stelios, towards some Tottenham fans. Now, you took offence to, well, not to you took offence, you took exception to what Lee Judges had said. So I think it's only fair that you come back and explain why. So over to you, bro. The mic is yours, my friend.
Look at the smirk on Judge's face straight away. He can't wait. Yeah, look, for me, as a Spurs fan, and I only speak for myself, although I have to say there is a growing group of fans now in Spurs that are on the same page. To say we're ungrateful, I think is it's a bit clickbaity. It's good for the marketing, but I don't buy it because as a Spurs fan, I know the argument's going to be, yeah, but you guys don't win trophies. You're not that club. I disagree. If you go back to before the Premier League began, right? We're talking facts. Before the Premier League began, we're going back 91, 92. I think the Premier League began 93. I could be wrong.
92,
right? Go back to then. Who won more FA Cups, Spurs or Arsenal? Spurs. Who won more League Cups, Spurs or Arsenal? Spurs. Who won more European trophies, Spurs or Arsenal? Spurs. Who won more league titles? Arsenal. So we weren't like this big void, this big gap between the two clubs. Far from it. Although some would say you've got more clout because you won more league titles and that's kind of the creme de la creme, which I can accept that to a point. I can accept that. But in every other competition, Spurs have won more than you guys. But what then happened was the Premier League began. You went one way, we went the other. You kind of somehow navigated through it. We went backwards. And then at the start of the century, 21st century, in come Daniel Levy and Enoch. And I will say for the first 10 years, they took our club to a good place. Redknapp got us back into the top four. We slowly got through the league positions, climbing up the table with Martin Joel, getting us back into Europe. But from 2010 onwards, I'm sorry, we have not progressed. We haven't pushed on from being top four. That is it. We don't win trophies. We don't have the squad, the quality to make the changes in games, key games in semi-finals and finals when we have got to them. And this big UFO in the middle of Tottenham called the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, which is an amazing UFO. Don't get me wrong, it looks brilliant. And the new training ground, the infrastructure, it means nothing if there's no footballing plan. And we've been through manager after head scout, after footballing director. It's the owners, it's the chairman that hires these people. He hires, he fires. We've tried everything, but we've failed to get it right because the owners, the chairman, do not want to make the key decisions regarding squad, planning, to back a manager and say, do you know what? Let's just go for it. And after 22 years of giving these guys season ticket money, after 22 years of following this team up and down the country, we're not like other clubs. When things turn bad, you don't show up to games. We pack out the stadiums through thick and thin. We always turn up, Spurs fans. We're so loyal. I don't think we're ungrateful. I just think that there comes a point where you have to say, when is it going to change? These owners have had 20 years to do it. They haven't done it. And we're now in a situation where Conte's not signing a new contract. They're at kind of a standoff with one another. I don't think we've signed good players in the summer. I think a couple, yeah, good. A couple, let's see. A couple, they're not going to work. It's a typical unbalanced transfer window again, no matter who the manager is. I don't understand how I'm ungrateful. I just think that we've had plenty of chances to get it right. And when the moment comes, they don't want to do it. They just don't want to do it because either they don't get it or they're just not in it for the football the way we need an owner to be at Tottenham. They've got to give us something back. I don't mind them making millions of pounds. It's their company. Make your money, man. Take it. But you've got to give me, the fan, a little something back. And I get nothing back other than we got to the semi-final. Oh, we nearly won the league, but we came third. It's just not enough. We're apparently a top 6 club. I don't see how we're a top 6 club behaving like this. And that's
before Lee comes back in, let me ask Michael, because obviously, Michael, you've got an opinion on Levy and ENIC and Spurs, I'm sure. And I just want to get your opinions on the kind of job that they've done and if you think they're going to be right for the future, like for Spurs.
Well, I mean, I'd rather focus on the North London derby, to be honest with you, because I've got to work with the football club. I mean, look, I'll be there as a fan on Sunday. Look, Tottenham fans tweeting me every day when I'm on. I get the frustrations. I really, really do. And there's been situations where there's transfers that should have probably happened, should have gone over the line. And honestly, I do understand a lot of fans, and look. Tottenham, Arsenal, their away support is just phenomenal. When I always hear about Everton, Newcastle, blah, 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 Nottingham Forest, Arsenal would take 6,000. Tottenham would take 6,000. Brilliant support. And 60,000 Portsmouth at home when there's no trains running. It is phenomenal support. Most expensive season tickets about. I do get it. What I would say is that we are in a situation now that you've got Manchester City. You've now got Newcastle. And they're not going anywhere lower. They're going up there.
100%.
So what I would say to any football club owner that it's going to be hard to compete, and you're going to see a lot of. It's going to be tough for clubs now competing in that situation. So obviously, there's been talk this week about a potential Qatari, a small state coming in. So keep an eye on that one. But yeah, look. The only thing I would say is that I don't necessarily go down the trophy line about there's only been one cup. Tottenham got to the Champions League final. Right? They were poor that day. Daniel Levy didn't put Michel Vorm in goal against Chelsea, Manchester United in the FA Cup semis. Play your strongest goalkeeper. So I don't always go down the trophy line, but I understand the concerns and some of the anger from supporters. Obviously, it didn't help with the European Super League, and Tottenham. Or a number of the big 6 were involved in all of that. Look at what Arsenal were doing yesterday with this, getting the fans involved at the Emirates. This is all a part of sort of like reconciliation with supporters. So let's wait and see. Look, it's only January the 12th. It's been a really. I've literally come in from work on set talking transfers, and every day we're talking about a player. Man United are getting on loan from Burnley. So let's wait and see. Okay, I get the frustration, and I'm sure I'll get loads coming up to me on Sunday and talking about it. Prepared to have a conversation, but I will need people to respect my position as well at the moment.
Can I just say one thing in reply to what Michael said, and I will respect your position, Michael, because you've made that clear. So fair play to you. What it is for me. I can actually handle if we don't win trophies for a few more seasons. I can actually handle it as a Spurs fan. But what I want to see is, for the first time ever under Pochettino, I saw everything going in the right direction. I saw a manager that was playing great football, developing the team, competing with teams that we had no right to compete when you look at our wage bill and our transfer spend. We had a director of football, or head scout, whatever you call him, Paul Mitchell, who was scouting brilliant talent for the club. And everything just seemed like, you look at Arsenal now, the unity there, we had it. The difference is they kept backing their manager and we stopped. It's things like that. And if we don't go and spend 300-400 million a window, I get it. I totally get it. But when I look at the kind of players we buy, and I look at the manager we've got, and I listen to the vision of the club, nothing aligns. And for me, that says, does this club really have a plan for football? And my answer to that is no. And I respect maybe you can't answer on that. But if we just spent, like Man United, bought 4 top players in the summer and that's it, and then maybe 1 top player in January, and then we get to the next one and we buy 3 top players, I can see that. But we seem to buy 7 or 8. We always have to buy 7 or 8 players with the budget. We can't just go and buy 3 or 4 top players and say, let's build. And again, I think that comes from the planning at the top. And that's my biggest gripe, anything, Michael.
I'm conscious that this is a Spurs v Arsenal podcast, but we can speak off camera. But just what I would say is, do you remember when Spurs sold Bale and they said they sold Elvis but bought the Beatles? Well, 2 years later, 6 of those 7 left the club. They were bad signings, weren't they?
Yeah.
Really poor signings.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
You look at Chelsea, like 300 million, 350 million over the last 6 months, looks so much weaker. You know, it's about getting the right players in as well. And I think, you know, what Tottenham would say to me as well, you know, the problem we had in the past, who's Harry Kane's backup? Vincent Janssen, not good enough. Vinicius, scored tonight, lovely, but wasn't good enough. Richarlison, 60 million quid. All right, yeah, no qualms. No one had any qualms about him or Basuma in the summer. So there has to be a balance. Conte wanted Perisic, not usually the Tottenham kind of model, 33, blah, blah, blah. He's in. So but this could go on for 24 hours, this conversation, Stelios, couldn't it? I mean, it really could. And as I say, as I reiterate to Tottenham Hotspur supporters, I get it. I just have to, but we can have this conversation after this derby.
How I see it is from a fan looking in, right? And I do think that Tottenham have completely changed over the last few years. They're a bloody decent side. One of the reasons that it went pear-shaped for Pochettino, by the way, was when he played Harry Kane in the cup final when he weren't fit. He lost a lot of respect for other players in the team. I know that for a fact. And so that was a difficult one for him. Like, you know, listen, Spurs, you know, you go on about winning trophies and all that. Spurs made a record about winning a trophy every 10 years, and you know what I mean, like, because it had to be like lucky we've won it. Like, you know what I mean?
Just the FA Cup. Just the FA Cup.
But, you know, it was like, you know, it was the way it was. Tottenham Hotspur in all my lifetime have very rarely challenged for a title. They have done in the last few years. And you know, when you turn around and go on about money and all that, like, as an Arsenal fan, we had to sell players every single season. I see Harry Kane still at the club 7 or 8 years later. I see Song still at the club 7 years later. World-class players. I see Arsenal having to sell Van Persie, Fabregas, all those players to keep a bloody stadium going. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and I just think at the end of the day, Spurs fans have got no right to say that they can win trophies and leagues, nor have Arsenal. And Michael's right when he says, like, the reason that Tottenham haven't won trophies in the last 5 years has nothing to do with Levy. It's because Chelsea have been about splashing their cash for whatever. You know, Arsenal and Spurs cannot afford to spend, like for instance, Man City can't afford to spend £50 million on Ake, right? And then in the same transfer window, turn around and go, in the next transfer window, say, oh, we ain't good enough. We're going to spend another 50 million on another centre half. We can't do that. Arsenal can't do that. Tottenham can't do that. And you're up against these animals, which they are. You know, Newcastle are going to be another one, like, you know. And realistically, you know, Champions League final, Tottenham Hotspur, ruined my summer. You know what I mean? Like, June the 1st. Like, Dan, you know what it was like. It was horrendous. We was all saying, like, oh, if Arsenal can lose the Europa League Cup and that guarantees Tottenham losing the Champions, I'll take it right now. Like, you know what I mean? And when we lost to Chelsea, we were saying, well, we've done our bit. You know what I mean? We've done our bit, like, you know. Tottenham have been in a Champions League final. Who would have thought that? Like, you know what I mean? And I think personally that gets brushed aside at times. It gets brushed aside at times. I get that there's a frustration that you're not spending no money, but Spurs had won the transfer window last summer with the player. No, £60 million. £60 million for a backup striker. That's what they spent. You know what I mean? Like, see, we haven't been out to spend 60 million. Arsenal go into this North London derby, by the way, with no striker on the bench. No striker.
Well, nor have we. We haven't got a striker, Lee. on the bench.
Yeah, the only thing you've got unfortunately Richarlison's injured, isn't he? Like, you know what I mean? But
Yeah, so we've got no striker.
Benton Kerr plays, you know what I mean? Like, you know,
He's injured.
Is he injured? Well, I thought he was back.
Kulu, Bentancur, Richarlison haven't played the last couple of games. That one might come back, maybe.
The injuries are going to happen in a season, like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, but you can't use the excuse you ain't got a striker and we ain't got one either, though. It's the same, right?
Well, we haven't. We haven't got. We actually played Newcastle the other week, and we couldn't bring nobody on. I know that with Tottenham, like, they played Portsmouth the other day, and they couldn't. They had to play Harry Kane because they got no one. Listen, the World Cup's
We're
been
2-0 down to Villa League. We're bringing on Pape Sarr and Emerson Chicken Royale. we believe you me. We are just in the same boat. This summer transfer window, this amazing window. See, I differ with a lot of Spurs fans. I don't agree that window was good. I thought that window was exactly like most windows at Spurs in the last 3-4 years, except we got a lot of the business done early. It was the same mix mash, weird, good, not sure where we stand window that I've seen under Mourinho, Nuno, the last season of Poch. And this is what I was saying to you about no plan. I admittedly, under Poch, I was happy. Even that Champions League final loss, we could have a discussion why we lost it. I wouldn't disagree with too much from what you say. But the last 4 years since we made the decision not to back him and rebuild, I have seen a decline in this club on the pitch.
That is decisions made by the board. Spurs fans.
That's where I'm upset.
They never really backed Pochettino, who deserved to be backed. Where they've backed Conte and they've backed.
Have they backed Conte yet? Have they?
Mourinho, who, by the way, are two unbelievable. Like Tottenham Hotspur, realistically, to get those two managers in is incredible.
I agree.
Incredible.
I agree. Yeah.
We know Arsenal. Have Arsenal been lucky down or not? I don't know, Michael.
Well, look,
I think you've had a plan.
I think what Tottenham fans will say, you know, if Tottenham was a dating app, they've tried every person on the app. You know,
Facts.
you've had your Mourinho's, you've had your AVBs, like the young up and comer. You've had your Harry Redknaps. You know, I remember being in the Sky Studios that night. Ramos was sacked. We got Redknapp on the phone. Typical Harry. Oh, they've paid $5 million for me because, you know, we ain't got any good players anymore. You know, I enjoyed the time under Redknapp. I had some great away days under Harry Redknapp. You know, Van der Vaart, Lennon, Bale. I mean, you know, and you know, Harry, bless his heart. You know, he came on the other day and he was sort of changing the truth back in the day because Bale could have gone out on loan. But I was on set going, bloody hell, these goals for Bale. I totally forget, you know. So yeah, I think Spurs have had pretty much every manager under the sun. And I mean, Lee, I've said to you a million times how highly I rate Conte, but there's frustrations there with fans at the moment, not necessarily just with Levy, in terms of the manager, because he's quite stubborn, you know, in his formation. You know, he doesn't like creative midfielders. The creators come mainly from the fullbacks. Now, Perisic is very good, but the right wing backs aren't good enough. So there's a problem there. So, but he doesn't change the system, and you know that's what gets frustrations from Tottenham Hotspur fans as well. So yeah,
Michael,
I mean,
should an elite manager have to change his system, or should the club adapt to the manager? Pep and Klopp never changed their systems at Liverpool and City. They just got backed. Arteta never changed his ways at Arsenal. Stuck with it. They backed him. But yet, as Spurs, Conte's got to change his ways.
My first ever interview with Conte, he said, his words, not mine, this squad needs serious work. He's had two transfer windows. One is January. January's a tough window.
He needs time, right?
Done. I'm not saying you can't, because Tottenham did last January and they won it. Arsenal didn't strengthen with the striker situation they had. West Ham were fourth at the time. Man U didn't strengthen. Tottenham did. I was about to break Luis Diaz going to Tottenham. Last minute, joins Liverpool. Spurs, I'm going to be honest with you all now. I thought it was an absolute last minute. Kulusevski, oh no, just because Paratici is a Juve guy. He has been brilliant.
Superb,
absolutely brilliant. And he's a key player. Bentancur, classy midfielder. A real loss if he doesn't make it Sunday. So there is an opportunity that we might still have some good news in January. Okay, but Sporting Lisbon want the full amount for this Pedro Porro, right? Release clauses in Spain and Portugal are there for a reason. Like they're to give those clubs the power to say, you're never going to touch our players. Here's a release clause. Let's just wait and see. I still believe that something will happen there. So let's just wait and see. But I think,
Right, come on, let's get on with it.
let's get on with it. Yeah, come on then.
Come on,
Yeah.
let's get it on.
It's become a Spurs show. What's wrong with you? Let's
It
get it.
has, man. Arsenal
It's
are top, you know.
Lee and Dan just laid out that. Like, what a season we're having. Look at these two moaning.
Get rid of Lee and Dan, and me and Michael will carry on. It's all right.
Yeah, that's it, man.
Listen, I'm going to say it now. I'll say it now, Dan. This is the biggest. I think this is the biggest North London derby for Arsenal for a very, very long while. If we can get the 3 points in this one, it takes us. You know, I'm going to say it now. If we beat Tottenham and we beat Man United next week, right? Arsenal will well and truly. I think I'm going to say it. I'll say it. I think Arsenal can win the league.
Lee, there's nothing wrong with you saying that. I'm finding Guardiola's comments a bit strange at the moment. Tonight in the reports that Cancelo's now going to be available for transfer.
What?
Yeah. In the Telegraph.
Yeah, I read that as well.
Yeah,
I saw that. Yeah,
from a very good journalist. So I don't really know what's going on there at the moment, and I've got to be honest, I'm a little bit worried as a Tottenham fan. Their performance against Southampton the other night, I thought, was desperately poor. I know we've got plenty of games to go. I want to see how Arteta's going to react to the Europa League coming back. Yeah. I mean, we've got a hell of a long way to go. If you do win Sunday, there's one thing for certain: you will 100% finish above Tottenham, which you get your St Totteringham's Day back. But you've got that. But so I mean, look, we did this in May about how big it was. Tottenham had to win. And they turned up and they won, and they won well. And wow, Tottenham, what a season. Now, I can't believe we're talking 7-8 months later where you're top and 11 points clear of Tottenham. And will be a huge frustration to Stelios and thousands of other Tottenham fans. I'm wondering how the hell this has happened. So you're in a great position, and fair play to you.
But for people that don't know, that's where we first met out in the Atlanta tour. You was doing it for Sky, weren't you, for the Arsenal tour? Yeah. And that was the first time we sort of seen Arsenal. And you actually said to me, Mike, you're going to have a good season. You was impressed as well, weren't you?
I did. Lee, pre-season's really hard, isn't it? Because you can't judge. But we watched that game. We watched Arsenal-Chelsea. And look at the teams now, Lee, actually thinking about it now. You looked so settled. You looked fitter than Chelsea. There was something not right with that Chelsea squad.
Yeah, we said that, didn't we?
And we were in that bar, weren't we? And I said, look, it bodes well. You got Jesus in very early, and it looked, and everything. Just things were like I was lucky, for my job to be around the camp, the hotel. Like everyone was getting on really well. This wasn't a club that had lost to their North London rivals so late in the season. Something happened. Edu spoke well. And look, yes, you had a decent early set of fixtures, but you still had to win them, and you've done that and you've carried that on. And also, let's not forget this, right? We talk about managers and we talk about, tomorrow morning's going to be dominated by Graham Potter's future. Didn't you finish 8th one season?
Twice.
A club of 8th and 5th.
I mean, looking back now, if they'd have sacked Arteta for that, you might have gone, harsh, but that's unthinkable for a club of Arsenal's stature to finish.
I agree. I agree.
And when people used to sort of mock and ridicule the trust the process line, well, thank God that for Arsenal, they did trust the process because most of your signings have been hits, not misses, and that's proven to be the case. And you've got to say that about Arsenal. You've got, that's fair's fair.
Listen, this is the first time in 9 years that I've gone to 9 years since we've beaten Tottenham at White Hart Lane. This is the first time I've gone there and thinking, surely now looking at the way that I know form goes out the window, but surely looking at the two teams, looking at the weaknesses and looking at how the momentum is with one or not the other, this must be Arsenal fans going into this one. And I don't know that there'll be many Arsenal fans going, I don't think we're going to win this one, but I can't see how we're going to get past this team. I think there'll be a lot of Arsenal fans going, surely. I mean, you look at that defence, surely look at our front four, it's looking good. So that's got to be a good thing. I also think as well that although it's weird in football, isn't it? Because there's little bits of news that can kind of change the way you are. So what I mean by that is I was going to come to you in a minute on this, Michael, because I don't know the team news. I don't know if Kulusevski's playing. I don't know if Bentancur is fit. I have no idea, and we'll come on to that in a minute. But that can kind of give people a lift. It can be a different Spurs team. Defenders coming back. If your back three is going to be Dyer, Romero, and Lenglet, that's better than having the Sanchez's and the Tangangas and the Davies and all these guys that have been coming in that have just been a shambles, to be fair, of the last few. So I think that's what needs to be discussed. And I think that form definitely does go out the window. But I'll come to you first, judges, because from an Arsenal point of view, surely, you know, me and you went last year, mate. We stood next to each other and it was like PTSD. It was just horrendous, mate. So I don't want any of that stuff again. But I look at it, right, and I think surely we should be confident going into this game, Lee, that if we play the way that we have been, there's nothing to say that we can't beat these guys.
No, and listen, for the first time in a long while, and I don't know how many years it is, but it's been too long. I think Arsenal goes to Tottenham the better side. And it hasn't happened for a very, very long while. In saying that, and this is the deep, I think Arsenal have gone to Tottenham with better sides and Tottenham with worse sides and still not won the game right. You know what I mean? This is a difficult place to go and play. Always has been, always will be. For whatever reason, form goes out the window. The team that isn't quite as good. And listen, you know, I think over the last 5, 6, 7 years, Tottenham have been the better side. The league don't lie. We've still beaten them at home. Still beating them at home. I think home advantage in these games is massive. I do. I would be very, very licking my lips if we was at home on Sunday. I would be fancying us. But because we're away from home, I've got funny feelings. I've got horrible feelings about it because this Tottenham team can turn up. They've got world-class. They've got the world-class players. I know that Song's not been playing well, but he's still a world-class player. Harry Kane is Harry Kane, as we all know, class striker. I thought, I'm going to be honest with you, I thought, well, Tottenham might get turned over by Crystal Palace. I might have a little watch of that one because I only watch Tottenham when I think they're going to lose. Right? Harry Kane ain't touched the ball. Ain't touched the ball. First chance he gets, bang, goal. End up winning 3 or 4-0. 4-0. That is the danger that you've got. When you've got someone that's got that ability, they're a worry. You know what I mean? And I think in this game, I don't know how you guys think about this, Arsenal's strength is our weakness in this game because I think that Tottenham will sit back and it's on the counter-attack and they're very, very good at it. Arsenal are prone to the counter-attack because I think that's where Tottenham are very, very good. So I do think that we're push up and I don't think that we'll go there and change our style. And I think that that will suit Tottenham because Tottenham in other games would probably, you know, the guys would probably say like, you know, they expect you to attack because we're Tottenham Hotspur. But this is a game I think where they probably won't. And they can sit back and maybe get us on the counter attack. So I'm fearful, nervous, yes, but you know we are playing really, really well at the minute, Dan. You know what I mean? And we are a different animal to what we was last season. The other thing is about last season, as bad as that was, I think you know we had 3 or 4 players get missing that day, and I know that Tottenham might have 3 or 4 missing, and even a couple of those players were patched up last season. You know what I mean? To get us through, like, you know, I know that Gabriel was one of them, like, you know. If I'll be honest, this is a good time to take on Tottenham. I do think that there's a little bit of unease in the camp. I don't think that, you know, I mean, Michael come up with a great point. You go to Arsenal at the minute, everything's on the, you know, and we've been there before when we've split fan base and things like that. Everything that Arsenal do at the moment is right. Even, you know, like they've brought out these memorial things now, you know, like the pictures and things on the stadium. Everybody's loving it, you know what I mean? Getting the fans involved, getting everything being like the club and all that. There was 2 or 3 seasons ago, we're going to Tottenham with players that I didn't like then. Arsenal players I didn't like.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, you know, now I go there loving every single one of them. You know what I mean? And
we were like that under Pochettino. You got your memorials. We were building a new stadium. It was all feel-good factor at Spurs.
Yeah,
same buzz.
Yeah, you've got you know, and look, listen, they had the game on yesterday on Sky. They showed it last night. The Chelsea, the Battle of the Bridge, Chelsea versus what's a game of football that was, by the way. Like, you know what I mean? But Chelsea had, you know, Tottenham. The side that Tottenham had then was unreal. Unreal, you know, Walker and Danny Rose as the fullbacks. You know what I mean? Like Ericsson in that side.
Actually, do you remember when Dan asked me earlier what's Chelsea's problem with us? They finished 10th that year, and they were celebrating that at the end. It was
celebrating like
it was unbelievable. But yeah, you're right. You're right. I mean, it's funny because Stelios will acknowledge this as well. I'm sure. You know, there were people even thinking, well, how can you improve that 11 when you're in the transfer windows because you had Rose and Walker either side. Alderweireld and Vertonghen, who were right at their peak then. Dembele.
More recently, peak.
Yeah, I mean, you had Arsenal players, even the likes of Wilshere, saying Moussa Dembele was the hardest player I've played against. He was colossal in midfield.
Very underrated player.
Yeah, Son, and then the player who's I've never known a player to fall so spectacularly in Dele Alli, but he was scoring 20 goals a season. Now,
Michael,
yeah.
I think it was the bench that needed improving because whenever we had an injury suspension, the massive drop off from what came off.
Couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more, Stelios. And these players needed that competition, which they didn't get. So I completely agree with you. Yeah.
Fair play. Listen, Michael, let's get your thoughts on this one. And any team news that you know of Spurs would be great as well, because I know players potentially could come back. So come on in.
Well, I'm there tomorrow for Sky. So Conte, I'll be live from 1 and Conte at 2. So Stelios will know.
Let me know.
Kulusevski, I think will make it in. He's been training.
Please God.
Yeah, I think Bentancur and Richarlison might just not make it in time. Maybe one will be on the bench, but I think Kulusevski will be back, which is big. But I think it's a real shame Bentancur will miss this because obviously Partey and Xhaka's had a great season. So what a redemption he's had. But so I would have liked him back. But it's unlikely, so I think it'll be Basuma and Højbjerg. So, but unless there's always one name, isn't there, from Arsenal or Spurs or someone, it's like on the day you're like, oh my God, what's happened to him? And Stelios will remember the game in May, Romero was out and Sanchez, and the Spurs still kept a clean sheet. So, be intriguing. I mean, I don't think Arsenal or Spurs will give anything away in terms of Twitter pictures or too much team news, especially if there's a bad one, which they don't want to tell anyone. But
who would you say is favourites, Michael?
I think Lee. I think you're right. In the sense that Arsenal usually win at your place, and there is a little bit of a cloud at the moment with a few things. And I understand the frustration with Spurs fans. I mean, my message to Tottenham fans would be: look, whatever your grievances, whatever your views, that's not going to help the players. And, as Gary Neville said in May, that's the greatest atmosphere I've ever heard. This is a guy who has gone to Man United, Liverpool, Man United, Man City. This is a guy, he's northern to the core, but he acknowledges, respects and appreciates what...
It was sensational, though. On the day, it was unbelievable. It was
but,
outside, inside, it
was fun. I have to say, when it's the Emirates, Arsenal,
agree.
Their atmosphere is top-notch against Tottenham. So... And I have to say this as well. I'm being disappointed by a couple of Twitter accounts this week, stirring up things. I think people with big accounts have a responsibility to get behind your fans, but don't say this and that and make accusations. Everyone wants to come home and support your team. At the end of the day. So I've seen a bit of silliness over social media over the last few days. So. Both clubs very well supported, and we don't want anything to go over the top. So, it's always a great game. And being a North Londoner, I've got hundreds of Arsenal fans, and I'm sure you boys are the same. It's I'm sorry, I'm biased. I think it's the best game in the league. I really do. I don't know. I can't remember many boring games.
It never lets you down, does it? It never lets you down.
And I in a funny way, I'm quite glad it's in January so I can get it out of the way. Like, get out of the way.
I must admit, I'm the same. I must admit, I looked at the result. You always do, don't you? Fixtures come out when Spurs away, when Spurs at home, and I thought, oh, do you know what? At least it ain't in May or April this time. One that you've got to go hang and wait for. You know what I mean? Get them both out of the way. It's like going to the dentist. You just want to be over, don't you? Really? Do you know what I mean? It's just one of those. So I think for me, like I honestly believe, and Kulusevski, he is going to be unreal, mate. Like 21, 22 years old. If he's in the team, that worries me, Lee. I have to say it, mate. I know I like Zinchenko, but I think he's a player. I think they're going to target at that kind of side, and I think that he definitely will give him a run for his money. I think he's a very, very talented boy, and I think Harry Kane will be very happy if Kulusevski's playing. So I wanted to come to you, Stelios, because obviously as soon as you said the name Kulusevski, you went, oh, please be fit, which obviously means you need him, and I really rate him highly. And we're going to have Saka and Martinelli causing your fullbacks a lot of problems, like to think. How important is it that this guy's fit for you, mate?
Massive. If you look at the stats on this guy, when he doesn't play, our points drop by 50%, our creativity drops by 50%, the number of goals we score drops by 50%. You know, a lot of fans call us Harry Kane FC. I think Kulusevski is just as influential as if not more at the moment. He's one of the only players in the team that can actually take on a man confidently and does it often. He can beat a man. And you always know a class player when they're calm, when they're surrounded by players that want to tackle them, put one on them, and they're calm, cold as ice. He's like that. Head up, body upright, keeps control of the ball, and always does normally makes the right decision, even if it's a simple pass or a cross or a shot. He hasn't played, though, for a bit. So will he be rusty? You know what players are like. When they get momentum and they're playing back-to-back games, they get into their flow. He hasn't had that. So I don't know how good he will be if he plays, but he's a massive player for us. And what Michael was saying about Bentancur, I think Bentancur has been Spurs player of the season. I think Bentancur this season, not only has he been our best midfielder, we've been crying out for a goal-scoring midfielder at Spurs for years, and he's come up with goals this year. Even Højbjerg has as well, to be fair. But Bentancur and Kulusevski and Romero, those three signings are the best signings we've made in years. And if those three play, I'm telling you, you're not going to beat us. If those three play, if they don't, I might be going home at half time.
I'll make one quick point, and I actually agree, Stelios. Bentancur's been brilliant, but I think sometimes Tottenham fans, we take for granted who we have up front. Harry Kane's got 15 in 18 league games.
He's top
and
class.
I genuinely believe Haaland would have had less at Tottenham and Kane would have been huge at City. You know, he's just, even when he didn't score it, he got 2 at Palace. Those 3 balls he put forward, you know, you just take it for granted. It's scary to think of, as a fan, the club without him, like genuinely. But I mean, I acknowledge everything Stelios has said in terms of those players, and it's imperative at least one of them comes back. But yeah, do you know what? It's funny, boys. I can't really give a good prediction for Sunday. I don't know how it's going to go.
I don't know.
Exactly. It's a weird one because I know you are playing well, and that, you know, it's only Newcastle sort of stopped that run for you. I mean, that Brighton win was huge because Brighton are getting so many plaudits at the moment, and rightly so. So I can't really predict this one. It's a real tough one.
The thing is, Michael, Newcastle sit back. I think Newcastle did a number on Arsenal personally, right? They knew they couldn't go toe-to-toe with arguably the best team in the country right now. They've gone there and they've shut shop, frustrated them, got a point from Arsenal. They haven't dropped any points at their home ground. And they did what they had to do. Now, if we went and did that, Conte's negative, Conte's rubbish, his tactics are wrong, but Eddie Howe goes there and he does it. For me, I don't think we can go toe-to-toe with Arsenal. I think if we do that, we're committing suicide. They're too good, and we're not playing that level of football.
Yeah.
We need to be a bit more pragmatic. We have to.
Yeah, the problem for me, Stelios, is, you know,
sadly,
I always think Conte, it's working, but then you get one Tottenham player makes a stupid mistake, whether it's the goalie or it's someone. It's just
like our defense isn't great at the moment.
No, and this is probably where, you know, Spurs fans will be telling me on Sunday, Michael, you know, Mourinho wanted Skriniar, Conte wanted Bastoni. You know, should Eric Dyer still be in Tottenham's 11? You know, these are very legitimate and fair questions. You know, so yeah, I mean, I still can't believe.
Michael, I know you can't talk about it, but that's why I have this issue with the board. The fact that these defenders are still at the club under 5 different managers. It's small things like that I just think, come on, Daniel. Come on, Joe.
But Eric
Let's
Dyer
change this.
went to the bloody World Cup. Like, what's name rates him, didn't he? Like Southgate, you know.
It was brilliant last season under Conte. I must say, you know,
He
I must
rated
say,
Maguire as well.
Yeah,
well, that's true.
Tottenham fans have been telling whenever I question, and this isn't all Tottenham fans, by the way, but some of the Tottenham fans, they hate it when I question whether a player is good enough in their team. I don't get that. It reminds me of a few years ago when I was like, why are we still playing Bellerin? Oh, lay off Bellerin. He's a good player. He's top quality. Oh, okay. Why have we still got Mustafi? Oh, he's doing all right at the moment. No, ask for better. And I get that with Spurs sometimes. Spurs fans, they'll say, oh, Dyer's been one of the best players in the league this season. And I think, okay, keep him then. Don't complain when he makes a mistake. Hugo Lloris has fumbled it how many times? Oh, don't lay off he's a World Cup winner. All right, then keep him in goal. It'll go wrong, but keep him in goal. Do you know what I mean? It's weird.
Lloris is a funny one because I know many Spurs fans are talking about it. Lloris's time is up. It won't be that easy to replace him. Believe me, it's not as easy. It's not easy getting a top goalie. There's not that many out there.
He's been great. He's been great for Spurs. He has been great for Spurs. I was meaning this season, but yeah, he's been great for Spurs.
Yeah, I think Lloris has saved Spurs more points than the fumbles and cock-ups he's made where he's...
I agree with you, Stellion. I agree. And any goalkeeper mistake is always going to be the high-profile thing, isn't it?
Yeah, so, he's still a good goalkeeper, isn't he?
Yeah. I mean, you two will know more than me. I mean, Ramsdale has been pretty solid, hasn't he, over the last couple of seasons? He doesn't make any rickets, really, does he?
No, he hasn't. Don't say that, Michael. He's out of order.
I've just seen the title to this pod. I mean, talk about coming under false pretenses. Bloody hell.
No, he's been. I think that with Ramsdale, I think that he's like a lot of Arsenal players and signings, and you know what I mean. I think has been better than what I thought he was going to be.
Yeah.
But I think this season, what I've liked about him, he's been a little bit more calmer. Don't you think, Dan? He's not
100%.
been has been.
You know, he's doing them stupid pass backs.
Yeah, sometimes you want to be involved in the game when, you know, let the game come to you. You know what I mean? Don't try and make it come to you. And I think that.
Do you think the level of your defence being better has allowed him to be calmer? Because Saliba, when you signed him, I was livid because I watch a lot of youth football because I coach in youth football, and I get to watch. I get involved watching a lot of younger players around Europe. And when you guys went in for Saliba, I think it was the same time Leicester bought Fofana because them two were a partnership.
That's right.
I so badly wanted Spurs to get him, but you were happy to buy him and then send him out on loan, which I don't think we were. Michael can tell us about that deal because that's his game. But what a player he is for you, look. Honestly, man. I'm jealous we haven't got a centre back like that to go next to Romero.
When we see him the first time in America, didn't we?
Yeah, and I have to. I must say, yeah. I mean, lovely lad. I can't say he's not. We had to do a shoot in Orlando, Universal Studios, and he's had a tough personal life, and I'm sure he'll bring it out. But he's a good boy. And you can see what Arteta, in fairness, and Edu have done, eliminating bad eggs. And it's funny, we'll talk about Guendouzi on the show tonight, the transfer show, because Emery is looking to bring him in at Villa. And
Villa, isn't it? Yeah.
You remember that famous picture of Guendouzi strangling? Is it Neil Maupay and then the Ozil and Aubameyang? You know, you look more of a unit, don't you? And I mean, look at Aubameyang tonight. I think Potter, didn't he make 4 changes and didn't bring him on or something?
Yeah, unbelievable. You talk about someone like Dele Alli dropping off of the field. So is Aubameyang, you know what I mean? It's just incredible. It's incredible. You know
Something's wrong mentally there, like Aubameyang, because he was banging him in, and I think he's lost his head completely. He don't look bothered. He's just swanning it around. He don't care. You know, it's mad. So, but it's interesting what you say, Michael, because you know I was quite critical of the manager, the board, the process. I was just thinking 8th. Like Arsenal don't come 8th. We come 8th again. Arsenal don't come 8th. Yeah. You know, and I think it was justifiable to question mark what was happening at the club. And at the time, there was a lot of praise I did heap on them off the pitch. I hated the results. I give him a lot of stick for that. But off the pitch, they were doing the right thing, in my opinion. They were removing the Mustafis, Kolasanac's, Ozil's, Aubameyangs. We've spoken about them all. And I honestly believe, and I was asked this question on quite a few channels, and they've said, what is it, Dan, this year that's changed? Is it Jesus and Zinchenko and Saliba? Listen, that's helped 100%. But for me, the progress that they showed off the pitch is now showing on it, because there's togetherness, there's unity, there's understanding of what being a non-negotiable is and what being on the ship is. Like all these stuff that come out a few years ago, we all laughed at. That is now starting to make a hell of a lot of sense. And yes, the players have definitely helped. And like Celios is bang on. The defense has massively improved with Saliba just being added to it. And Ben White, by the way, who doesn't get enough credit, he has been sensational this year. Absolutely brilliant, consistently good, at right back. And I think now what we're seeing is all of the stuff that they were pointing out a couple of years ago is now starting to come into fruition. Now, it is early days, and I wanted to ask the both of you as Tottenham fans, not whether you think we will, but do you think that Arsenal can win the league this season? Michael, we'll start with you.
Yes, Dan, 100%. I mean, look at you're top of the league. And as I think I said earlier briefly, I don't really understand some of the points Guardiola's making lately, and I've got a weird feeling about City this year. It's, it all started well with Haaland and everything, but ultimately, and this is quite so I like coming on things like this because I can actually maybe give an opinion more than I usually am allowed to, but unless Pep wins the Champions League, I'm never going to be fully what a career he's had at City. As Lee said, you don't get second chances when Tottenham and Arsenal whack out 50 million on certain positions, but I see Calvin Phillips doesn't strike me as a City signing. Ake's never. Yeah, I mean, but they get second chances. So of course I want City to turn it around. Believe me, but there's going to be a lot to come, isn't there? There's going to be City, the FA Cup, the Europa League for yourselves, and City in the Champions League. There's going to be so many more twists and turns. But yeah, answering your question, of course you are. You definitely have a chance. And I think Arsenal fans know they have as well. You've got a chance.
And I'll tell you another thing, I'm going to say it now. Man United are not out of this, by the way. You know what I mean? Like, people are sort of like...
Nor in Newcastle.
No. Yeah, so there's plenty of games going on there. But do you know what, Manchester City yesterday did not have a shot on target at Southampton?
That is mad. That is unrecognisable. That don't happen like that. That's just crazy.
And then we had on radio show last week when we wanted to sack the Southampton manager. It's just bonkers, isn't it? It's just bonkers.
It really is, man.
Really is. So there's going to be so many twists and turns. But Arsenal fans must have this. You must have this little thing. You're top of the league, for God's sake. You've got a decent league.
Well, the reason I ask you, Michael, and the reason that I was quite glad that your response was absolutely, was because I don't always get that response. No chance. Oh my God, it's still early. It's loads to go. Oh my God, Man City, they've got unbelievable squad depth, and I understand why people might doubt that we can, and might say, yeah, listen, I think you can, but not so sure that you'll get there. But to come out and say Arsenal won in a title race is way too early. I don't think it's that. I think that's ignorance, if I'm honest.
Look, Arsenal Football Club, and need to be back in the Champions League. It's been way too long. You know that, but no one has a divine right. I was listening to the radio earlier, Jim White and Simon Jordan, and they were talking about Leeds and Villa, two massive clubs, both desperate to get into Europe. I'm like, how many spots do you want for Europe?
Yeah.
Come on. West Ham think they need to be in Europe. Everton think they deserve to be in Europe. Newcastle, no one has. You've got to earn the right. However, you had so many years under Arsene Wenger, but you've had so many years without it. And Edu said to me in July, this is the year they targeted the top four. So, look, anything below second now, you probably will be, maybe not, to yourselves think, a bit disappointed, but you being in the Champions League, hearing that music again next season is gonna it hits you. It hits you, doesn't it? That music. There's nothing like it.
Forgot what it's like, Michael. Forgot what the tune is.
Well,
how does it go again?
We're in the knockouts for it. I mean, there's a lot of doom and gloom with Spurs fans, and again, I go back. All right, I get some of the arguments, but they finished top in the group in the end. They didn't make it easy, but yeah, I mean, if you finish in the top,
and should be favourites against AC Milan, by
possibly.
the way.
Yeah, I mean, possibly, but yeah, I mean, Yeah, I mean, if you're back in the Champions League next season, I know that's the very least now because the way you've been, but yeah, you're banging the title race. You're top of the league, and it's January.
Fair play, man. Fair play. Stelios, let's get your thoughts, man. You've been very quiet on Arsenal. I know it's not nice seeing us top of the league by 5, but what's your thoughts, bro? Like, do you think Arsenal can do it this year, or do you just think it's that just a little bit too much of an ask?
I'll tell you this. I'll let you into a secret. Well, it's not a secret. You can see it online. Last season, I made a bet on We Are Tottenham TV. Lee knows the boys better than him. And I said, we're not getting top 4. No chance. And the reason I said it was because, one, we got this habit of bottling it. And two, I thought Arsenal were a good team last year. I could see it. I could see what you were trying to do. And I made a bet that if Spurs get top 4, I'll wear an Arsenal shirt. That's how confident I was. Yes, Sod's Law. I did a show wearing an Arsenal shirt. I got absolutely rinsed inside out. Horrible, horrible stream that was. Anyway, this year, I'm being proven right what I saw last year. I never thought you'd be this good, though. No way. But I knew you were going to get better and better. So I'm not surprised you're good because I called it last year and it kind of backfired on me. Maybe I went a bit too early with it. But what I will say is this. The year Spurs challenged for the title, we fell short. All the other teams around us were in transition or failing, which opened the door for us. And Leicester managed to do it and we didn't. Okay. You've got a window here. Chelsea all over the shop. Man United are in transition, but they're still behind you. Newcastle, I think maybe it is a bit too early for them. Spurs are not the team how we finished last season. You've got a chance here. Your rivals have kind of dropped off. If you don't take your chance this year and win the league now, like when we had that chance, I think you're going to miss the boat because I see the competition coming back stronger next season. So I think you have to win it if you're going to win it again.
I agree with that.
In recent time, if you don't do it now, and it's on your owners, by the way, if you don't go and buy 2 or 3 top players to get you over the line, this is where we went wrong. It's where we went wrong under Poch, and we went wrong under Redknapp. We had a chance to win the league. We didn't want to go and get those 2 or 3 players to get it over the line. Not average, good players. If you go and do that, if you go and buy 2 top players now, doesn't have to be big money. You just got to fit your system and be, quality players. I think you will win it. If you don't, I think you've missed the best chance you're ever going to get. And it's going to kill me if you do it. It's going to kill me if you do it because we could have done that. We could have done it under Poch. Mm-hmm. So I hope you don't.
That is the thing is we're 5 points clear and next season that 5 points they might not get that again. You know what I mean? Like I agree. You know what I mean? Newcastle are going to be bigger and better next season. Manchester United, dare I say it, look like they might get Harry Kane next year. It looks like that's where they're going to be targeting. You know what I mean? So they're going to be like very, very strong. Is this right? I'm here and I'm just looking at my phone's bleeping here that Mudryk is like £70 million deal. Michael, looks like it might happen. You know what I mean? So
the information we got is what you want to pay up front. And I think there was look, he's a young guy, and I don't think Arsenal want this pressure on him with the transfer fee. But I think this is a matter of when, not if. And I've got to say, I'm surprised Shakhtar have held firm this much. But obviously, it's been a devastating year for the country and such a major club like them. And I think Andy Brassel, European expert, was on with me early, and he was talking about a lot of money they've lost on players. So they've held firm on this guy. But I do think it's a matter of when, not if, you're going to get this guy. And I think, from listening to Edu and listening to Arteta, their target is their first choices. And that's it, and that's what you did with Jesus. That's what you did with Zinchenko. And I'm sure you will get this one over the line. And I've got to say, I thought you'd have got it over the line by now. But it's, as I say, it's probably to do with the structure of the fee and how much Shakhtar.
Do you like him, Michael? Do you like him?
Well, the thing is, so last year, a colleague of mine, he was going to Brentford, and then he's had such a great year in the Champions League, and obviously Edu and your scouting team have done your homework, and look at the social media things he's putting out. He's obviously desperate to join, and I think Arteta's earned it if that's who he wants. then that's how you should get in. But again, it's I'm sure I mean more than me on Arsenal, but is the bench big enough? Is the squad good enough? That's if you have a couple of injuries in midfield, I see a real drop there.
100%.
It's just the start, isn't it? Really. So yeah, but I can see it happening.
Injuries, we've got to be like I look back at that Leicester side. You know what I mean? They were bloody good sides. You know what I mean? We beat them on February the 14th. Never forget it. Like Valentine's Day with
Danny Welbeck header. Yeah.
All right, that was the third game they lost that season, twice to us, by the way. They never lost another game after that. You know what I mean? Like, but you have to give them credit for that. And also, their main players never got injured. Like, you know what I mean? Vardy,
Mahrez, Kante. Yeah, it's crazy, wasn't it?
They had no Europe as well, Lee. No midweek rotation.
No,
the rest of us have to deal with.
That's true. They didn't have that as well. Like, and
yeah.
But I do think in football,
bit of luck.
Got to be good, but you need a bit of luck. I think you need a bit. We're going to need a little bit of luck on Sunday, guys. You know what I mean? And probably Tottenham will do as well. You know what I mean? It might come down to a decision or something like that. That's what it's.
I hope there ain't red cards because the last couple of derbies it does ruin it, doesn't it? Do you know what I mean?
It's over. It's over.
Yeah,
it's simple as that. It is over.
I don't mind if Spurs get a couple of red cards. Don't
Xhaka's due one. It's been a while. He's got to get
don't go there, please. Don't go there.
I must admit. Listen, boys. Before we do sort of come to close, Michael, just want to quickly ask: is after you speaking to like Edu and Arteta, do you think that could be it? Mudryk would be maybe the only one we go for. Do you expect us to be going in for some more?
It's funny because one of the players I did have stood up was Danilo, but he's off to Forest, so I don't know whether you've looked at it and gone, "Nah, I think we're all right there." Look, this is the player. This is the sole player you've targeted. Does that mean that's it? No, not at all. Because as I say, I think you expected it maybe to have come through already. But look, this is going to be a big deal, a big signing. So I think once that's through the door. I mean, I would last time I spoke to Arsenal, there was a few players like Cedric, for example, who's wanted by Fulham. And, someone told me, no, I don't think it's set in stone that Arteta is a little bit wary now of not getting rid of too many. Yes, there's this difference between your first 11 and maybe your squad. Even so, you've still got two-legged Europas to come, midweek games, FA Cup games. So I think Arteta would want another body in after that. That's for sure.
Yeah, fair play. Let's do it then, guys, shall we? Let's go around and see what we think prediction-wise it's going to be. It's always hard to predict. I might as well start, then I'll come to you, Lee. It wouldn't surprise me if this one was a score draw, but I am going to go with my heart, and I'm going to go for a 2-1 Arsenal win. Judges, over to you.
I'm the same. Listen, Michael's spot on with what he said. This could be Tottenham could win this. It could be a draw. Arsenal can win it. Nothing. It'd be no shock result. If whoever wins, it's not a shock. You know what I mean? Like that's how I see it. But I just think that we are due a bloody win at Tottenham. Like, you know what I mean? Let's put a little bit more misery on them, and let's nick a 2-1 win. Like,
Fair play, Stelios. What are you going with?
This is such a difficult question because it depends who's available. For me, it really depends who's available. If we've got Bentancur and Kulu, you're not going to beat us. I said last year we'll beat you, and I'm saying you won't beat us if they're fit. I'm telling you. Our fans will get it over the line for us. I'm not saying we'll win, but you won't beat us. But if they're missing, it's going to get very toxic in that stadium, the way things are at Spurs. I'm telling you, it's not going to be good. God help me. 1-1. 1-1.
You can't say it. You can't say it, can you? You just
can't say it. No, I can't. But I fear it. I do fear it, though. I'll tell you now, I do fear it.
Okay, fair enough. Michael, what about yourself?
Well, Stelios is right to fear. We've already lost at home to Newcastle, Liverpool, and the Villa result was just so poor. But form goes out the window in this game. I'm sorry, I know it's a boring generalisation, but it really does. It's the best game in the league. I think you've improved massively from May. And obviously, we've got a few things hanging over us. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. But a big, exciting one. A good game.
Fair enough, man. Listen, last question of the night, because it is a super chat. Michael, any news on Porro? And do you think it might be a smoke screen from Detroit?
It's not a smoke screen. It's not a smoke screen. They're very interested. It's just, as I said, I think I said earlier, there's a couple of situations there. Spurs have 3 right backs on the books at the moment. I think Jed Spence might go out on loan in the final week of the window. They will listen to offers for Emerson, but I don't think they'll get any this January. And also, I don't think Spurs will want to pay the full amount for the player on a minimum on the release clause. So they'll have to continue talks next week. And I also think that Sporting have got Benfica Sunday, so they didn't really want to get involved in this just yet. But yes, I do think there'll be talks next week.
Interesting. We shall see what happens. Look, guys, absolute pleasure. First of all, Stelios, thanks for jumping on, man. It's never easy coming on to
thank you,
Rivals podcast, but thanks,
Mate,
man.
Listen, whenever you want, I'm happy to come and jump on your show. Always happy to jump on people's streams. I've got a lot of Chelsea and Arsenal fans, believe it or not, that follow Tottenham Away, our channel, and they literally come in there and just bash us for an hour whilst we talk. So it's football. I enjoy football, being around football, talking football. So thank you.
It is, man. Well, listen, thank you for jumping up, and make sure you go and support Stelios at Tottenham Away, people. And of course, thank you, Michael. Absolute legend. Thank you so much for coming on.
Michael.
Mate. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure. No problem at all. Good to see you, boys, and be safe, and see you soon.
Absolutely. Take care, people. Smash a like on your way out. Subscribe if you can do. That would be amazing. And hopefully the next time you speak to us, it will me and Leah will have smiles on our faces. Take care, people. See you next time.